Over on Jaguar a new college football video is out. In this video, we talk about a 2004 game between Tennessee and Vanderbilt, and how Vanderbilt had the stupidest ticket prices imaginable, ripping off their fans and screwing everyone over in the process. Click the card in the upper right corner to watch. And now, on with our feature presentation. What should a referee be doing before a game takes place? Well, there's probably a lot of things that you can think of that a referee might do. Maybe they'll stretch so they can get their body loosened up, so that when they have to move around on the field during a game, they're in shape and don't pull anything, so they can keep up with the play. Maybe they'll talk with coaches to see if there's any bizarre or unusual plays they plan on utilizing during the game, so that the referee is aware of them and doesn't flag them for it. Maybe they'll go over the game plan and their notes one more time, and talk with the other officials about what to expect. If a quarterback has escaped sacks before, then maybe they'll tell each other a reminder that they shouldn't be so quick to blow the whistle if the quarterback is looking like he's in trouble. Or if there's a player who's had a history with late hits, to keep an eye out on that player, and make sure he doesn't get into any funny business after the whistle. There's quite a bit that goes into the pregame routine of a referee. However, I can guarantee you that this should not be one of those things, because the man you're looking at right now, and the man you've been watching this whole time, is Jerry Bergman, and he actually had a pretty successful career in the NFL, serving as a head linesman from 1966 to 95. Spending 30 years as an official is quite the accomplishment, especially considering the almost tragic backstory he had to get to that point, where he fell into a tractor engine at the age of 7, almost had his arm amputated, and had to spend 16 years getting reconstructive surgery on his arm. Bergman, by all accounts, was a great official. He worked 4 Super Bowls, was the top linesman in the NFL from a grading standpoint 8 times, and was inside the top 2 of this category for 25 years. But if you know the name Jerry Bergman today, odds are, it's not because of any of his good things. It's because of his unbelievably controversial ending to his career. Because the saying that it takes years to create a legacy and only one moment to destroy it was never truer than it was with Jerry Bergman. Because prior to a 1995 game between the Green Bay Packers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Bergman did something that no official should be doing before a game, in a move that was so controversial that not only did it lead him to get punished by the league, but led him to retire immediately after. And this is the story behind the mistake that cost a linesman his job. Before I talk about the incident in question, we need some context to understand the game that Bergman was working, and how the game itself was going. It's November 26, 1995, and we have an absolutely critical game on our hands in the NFC Central up at Lambeau Field, between the Green Bay Packers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. To say that this was a massive game for both of these teams would be an understatement, as with 5 games to go, both the Packers and Buccaneers controlled their own destiny in the NFC Central. The Packers sat at 7-4, and the Bucs sat at 6-5. And considering how tight the NFC Central was, with every single team at this point having 6 wins, minus the Packers with 7, and considering how tight the NFC was, with 11 teams sitting within 1 game of a playoff spot if the season ended today, neither of these teams had any room for error whatsoever. This is the kind of game that's so important that you need it to be called cleanly, with no officiating controversies whatsoever, because any controversy could completely derail a season. As you can probably expect from the title of this video, that did not happen. Now, it's not like the game in question was particularly close, as the Packers played really well on their home field, winning it by a final score of 35-13. I'm not sure any Bucs fan can say that they got screwed out of this game, because it is very tough to make that argument when you lose by 22 points, and when the eye test is not in your favor. Brett Favre had one of the best games of his entire career, which is saying a lot considering how great he was. Of all the games he played during this MVP season of his, minus his 5 touchdown game against the Bears, this might have been his best, as he went 16 for 24 with 267 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a passer rating of 143.6. He was near flawless. Green Bay's defensive line was superb all day. Trent Dilfer got sacked 4 times, and the defensive line got a lot of batted passes. And Tampa Bay got absolutely nothing going on the ground, running the ball 19 times for just 42 yards, averaging just 2.2 yards per carry. Eric Durrett, one of the best running backs in football, who was the runner-up for Offensive Rookie of the year before in 1994, and would finish the 1995 season with over 1,200 rushing yards and 11 touchdowns, was held completely in check, running the ball 14 times for 11 yards, averaging 0.7 yards per carry. To make matters even crazier, Rhett had a run that went for 12 yards, which means that if you take that run out, it means he ran the ball 13 times for -1 yard. And Green Bay's offense took control as the game went on, as excluding the final drive, where they were just running out the clock to end the game, the Packers scored a touchdown on 4 of their final 5 drives. For the most part, it was a great win by the Packers, as they extended their lead in the NFC Central and looked like they were going to be in a great spot heading into the final month of the season to win their first division title since 1972. However, in the fourth quarter of this game, with the Packers up 28-13 and the Bucs needing a defensive stand badly to have any chance at keeping this within 2 possessions, something happened that was a bit peculiar, because tensions between these two teams were pretty high, and it culminated in a fight. After a 4-yard run by William Henderson, well after the play was over, but off camera, Packers center Frank Winters pushed Buccaneers linebacker Hardy Nickerson. Nickerson retaliated by throwing a punch. Then, Packers tight end Mark Chmura got involved in some extracurricular activity with Nickerson, trying to defend his teammate. By all accounts, even though you can't exactly throw punches at people during games, the Packers were the instigators. Brett Favre said on Winters that it was a cheap shot to push Nickerson after the play, and said, "Frankie's probably one of the best cheap shot guys I've ever seen." That's always a good sign when a Packers player isn't even standing up for his own teammate. And Chmura said afterwards on his retaliation at Nickerson, "I thought I was going to get thrown out." So you would think that on this play, you would see some unsportsmanlike conduct penalties on both sides, and 3 ejections, with Winters, Nickerson, and Chmura all getting thrown out of the game. But nope, there was only 1 penalty, and only 1 ejection, and that was on Bucs linebacker Hardy Nickerson, even though he was not the instigator, and even though he hadn't been warned before. While this detail might seem insignificant now, as with or without Nickerson, the Bucs weren't coming back in the fourth quarter, just keep that in the back of your mind, because I promise you, this is going to play a surprisingly critical part in our story. After the game, Favre was asked about the chippy and somewhat sloppy nature of this contest, as by no means did the Packers play a perfect game. There was a lot of room for improvement. They were penalized 8 times, including some absolutely terrible spots, like a 3rd down pass interference call that kept Tampa's drive alive and led them to score a touchdown, a play where the Packers had 3rd and 1, but got called for holding, pushing them back 10 yards and making it 3rd and long, and a play where the Buccaneers punted it, but the Packers lined up offside, so the Bucs moved 5 yards closer and attempted a field goal, which they made. Normally, what do you expect a quarterback to say about this when presented with this question? It's usually an insanely cliche answer. You'll hear the guy say, "It's something we've got to clean up for next game," or "We're not going to be able to get away with that and shooting ourselves in the foot like that if we want to win the division and win games in the playoffs." But Favre did not say that. Oh no, he did not say that at all. Because Favre opened a giant can of worms that left everyone shocked and destroyed the reputation of linesman Jerry Bergman. Because as it turns out, Bergman did something highly illegal. When Favre was asked this question, he said about the sloppiness of the team at times with the penalties, "It's pretty frustrating." Alright, so far, nothing bad or out of the ordinary, nothing that warrants a story. But then, Favre continued. And when he continued, oh man, it got ugly. Because Favre said, "You know that ref, Jerry Bergman, came into the locker room before the game and asked me for about 5 autographs. I signed them for him. I said, 'Give us some good calls today.' He said, 'Yeah, I'll take care of you.' About that 3rd holding call, I told him I wanted my 5 autographs back." Now clearly, the line that Bergman said about taking care of Favre was said in friendly banter and in a joking context, so I'm not looking into that at all, and neither should you. But according to Favre, Bergman went into the Packers locker room before the game and asked for autographs. And no, that was not a joke by Favre. That actually happened. Bergman legitimately went into the locker room before the game for autographs. Naturally, the NFL looked into this And yep, it was true. Bergman spent his pregame trying to get autographs. You can see how this would be a massive problem and a massive conflict of interest, right? If you can't, then Buccaneers head coach Sam Wyche might be able to enlighten you, as he said that any player or coach in this situation where a referee asks for an autograph is in a no-win spot. As Wyche said, "You're a coach. What are you going to say before a ballgame that he's about to officiate? Yes, and take anything you need. If a referee goes into the locker room and asks you for an autograph, what happens if you don't say yes to that question? The referee might be more likely to favor those that accommodated his request of an autograph, and if you rejected him, might not be inclined to give you the benefit of the doubt. It's almost like when you do something for your boss that you really don't want to do, and that's not part of your job description, but you do it because of the fear of retaliation and what happens if you don't do it, because there's a power struggle." And before I go any further, I have to emphasize this. Having a referee get autographs from players before the game is not only unusual, but as you can probably tell, it is not allowed by any means, even if the referee was getting the autographs for his grandson as a Christmas gift. Favre said on a referee entering the locker room and asking for autographs, "That's the first time I've ever seen that." And Bucs safety John Lynch echoed those thoughts and said, "I've never seen that. I thought it was kind of strange." So that raises the question, why did I bring up the ejection with Nickerson beforehand? Because before the game, Bergman tried to not only get an autograph for his grandson for Brett Favre, but tried to get one from, you guessed it, Hardy Nickerson. And guess who didn't give him an autograph? Hardy Nickerson. Now, it's not like Nickerson turned down Bergman's request, but Bergman came into the Bucs locker room with 2 trading cards featuring Nickerson. But Nickerson wasn't in the locker room. He was in the equipment room. Bergman approached John Lynch, interrupted whatever he was doing in the locker room before the game, and had him try and chase down Nickerson so that he could sign some cards for him. Lynch obliged, again because he's in a no-win spot, and he said that he figured he'd try and find Nickerson so that the team might get some calls. But by the time Lynch was able to locate Nickerson and bring him back to the locker room, it was too late, and Bergman walked away empty-handed. Now, by no means am I saying that Bergman ejected Nickerson from the game because Nickerson refused to give Bergman an autograph that he was looking forward to. But when you consider the fact that this happened right before the game, the fact that Nickerson was the only one penalized for his role in this huge fight, and the fact that Nickerson was the only one ejected from the contest, you can see how this is a bad look for the league, right? You can see why this would pose a major issue. Nickerson even joked afterwards, "I don't know if it was the fact that I didn't give an autograph before the game or not. I guess I should have. Maybe an autograph would have saved me an ejection." Still, just to have that suspicion is a horrible look, and you can bet that the NFL took swift action. Reggie Roberts, the NFC's Director of Information, said on the incident with Bergman, he basically violated proper procedure for officials. Other spokesmen issued similar statements, and that the matter would be dealt with internally. Amazingly enough, Bergman did not get suspended for this, partly because it is extremely rare for officials to get suspended. However, the damage was done. Bergman was ordered to pay a $2,000 fine, which was a pretty hefty amount considering the fact that at this point in 1995, no referee was a full-time employee. And Bergman never worked another game after that 1995 season, retiring from the league, and I put retiring in air quotes. Whether he retired on his own accord, or whether he was essentially forced out after this controversy that was a huge black eye on the integrity of the Shield, is unclear. However, at no point during the season did Bergman say anything about his retirement, and at no point after the season could I find a single article on Bergman announcing his retirement or the NFL saying something about Bergman retiring. So you can draw your own conclusions on that. And again, with this whole thing, I don't think anyone is saying whatsoever that Bergman fixed this game in favor of the Packers just because he couldn't get an autograph from Hardy Nickerson, and because he could get an autograph from Brett Favre, and he promised Favre some good calls. But just the fact that there's plausible suspicion because of the events that transpired on the field, and because of the fact that Bergman badly violated protocol, is dangerous by itself. Because there are certain things as an NFL official that you really can't do. And going up to players before a game you're about to officiate, disrupt their pregame routine, and having them sign merchandise is definitely one of them. Jerry Bergman thought he was going to give the greatest Christmas present in the world to his grandson. Instead, not only did it turn into the most controversial Christmas gift in NFL history, but he wound up giving an unexpected 4-figure gift to the NFL as well. 30 years in the NFL as a well-respected linesman, and it all came to an end over a Sharpie. Get your official Jaguar Gator 9 merchandise by going to jg9shop.com, and be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, and subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out Twitch every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at Jaguar Gator 9. To see college football videos, subscribe to Jaguar Gator 8. To see highlight videos of players throughout the history of the NFL, subscribe to JG9 Highlights. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.